Having a six-figure budget and a dedicated team large enough to fill your... Oh dear, my camera's broken. No. Right, let's try that one again. There we go. Right, excellent. Let's try this one more time. Having a six-figure dedicated budget and a team large enough to fill your local TGI Fridays is awesome for running ABM campaigns. But small teams should not be dissuaded if the prize is big enough. So the concept we'll be examining is that if you've got really valuable target accounts, why would you use spray and pray when you can actually spend your money in a much more targeted way? This also aligns perfectly with the drive to make B2B marcomms more personalised and authentic, particularly for small companies where rapid growth is the stated goal. An ABM strategy which is tailored for making the best use of comparatively limited resources is not just smart, but it's borderline genius when you realise the full potential of what you can achieve. Hello and good afternoon, my name's James Rostance and this is the 414 live this Thursday afternoon. And it's for you if you're a professional B2B marketer, whether you work in-house at a company or if you work agency side at a B2B marketing agency, or indeed if you're a company executive with a hands-on role in your company's sales and marketing activities. And every week I speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing so that you can directly expand and enhance your professional knowledge with every single episode. Got there, right, there we go. Sorry about the slight technical whoopsie right at the beginning there. Answers on a postcard for when the next one will be in today's show. Hopefully not, but we'll see how things go. Right, before we cross over to Berkshire, where my guest is standing by live right now, let's do the roll call of honour for this week's new subscribers to the show and new friends of the show. In order this week, so signing up for regular weekly emails, Sheetal Patel, Corey Waters-Long, Stuart Winter-Tier, Debrata Senapati and Sandeep Yadav. Thank you very much, you guys, for signing up. I appreciate that. You and everyone else on the list will be getting weekly emails for the show to give you a rundown of what's on the current episode, as well as what will be coming up on the forthcoming episode. There you go, each and every week. www.the414.net to sign up and subscribe there. www.414.net. All previous subscription options. And to sign up. Right. So this week we're going to be diving into the realms of ABM and the concept that it's not just for the big guys. I love that title. To tell us more about that, crossing now live to Newbury in Berkshire, please welcome Helen Brown. Good afternoon, Helen.
Good afternoon. Hi, James. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. I am excited for the chat.
Yes, same. And this is going to be really cool because you've got a beautiful sort of counter viewpoint to put over to what we've previously covered on ABM on the show. And I think what you've got lined up for today is going to be a really valuable body of knowledge to give that balance. So with that said, could we start with you giving how you personally like to describe and define ABM?
Yeah, definitely. To me, it's a strategic approach to marketing, right? So ABM is all about being more highly targeted and highly personalized in what you do. So if you think of a traditional marketing demand funnel, if you can see my hands there, it's that kind of shape. So you have your total addressable market at the top, you target everybody within that, you nurture people through that process, and then you convert customers at the end. So account-based marketing is the complete inverse. It's more this kind of shape. So you're very narrowly defining who your target audience is before you even begin. And so you've got a much higher chance of converting that to be a customer. And I think the other point I would make is there's loads of conversation on, all of the social channels about, is it ABM, is it ABE, account-based engagement and account-based marketing. To me, and my own personal view, is that's just semantics. You need to call it whatever it will take you to make it successful within your business. So to make sure you get buy-in from your key stakeholders, that is the single most important thing. Because if you don't have that, you don't have a successful program. So if it's marketing running it and it's marketing and sales side by side, ABM might work for you. If you've got a full program that's marketing, sales and service, it might not make sense to have it with that orientation to marketing. So call it account-based engagement. But in reality, it doesn't matter. It's about being targeted and being strategic in the way you approach your marketing.
So what would be some of the common misconceptions that you personally would like to address on all of this?
So I love this, because the biggest one I think is, I love it. It's for the big guys, right? So people think ABM, it's a major strategic program. How could I ever do that if I don't have a six-figure budget and if I'm in a scaling business? The reason I feel so strongly about this is because I've been on both sides of this. So my background is for large global tech brands, and I've seen ABM done and working at scale. But we now work with scale-up businesses with VC investment. So I've seen both sides. And the reason that it can take a lot of investment, and people aren't wrong, that there is a version of it that indeed does take a six-figure budget. But if you think about those large enterprise businesses, they've got an addressable market of potentially hundreds of thousands of people, of businesses, tens of thousands of customers, God knows how many hundreds of pieces of content. Everything is at a scale which requires technology to be able to personalize, because you have to be able to automate that process. And those kind of technologies, like Bora and like Science, they are, that will require a six-figure budget before you have even looked at structuring your campaign, done any kind of LinkedIn advertising, and had the team put around it to manage it. But even those really big companies, when they get started, they don't begin with a six-figure budget. They don't begin by putting 30 people on a program for ABN. They begin with a small pilot, and they do that usually for their most strategic accounts. So something else to go into is that, for those of you not overly familiar with ABM, there are different versions of it. So you can target at a one-to-one level, so one account, one customer, one to few, so clusters of customers combined based on their needs, or one to many, which would typically be a sector-based approach. So coming back to that big enterprise version, getting started, you might just take a one-to-one approach, start manually and run a pilot with those big accounts. Now, apart from the will and the know-how, there is no reason on earth why that kind of approach cannot be taken for scaling businesses. And kind of my whole point here is that if you think about scaling businesses and what is your objective, well, your marketing budget is not a cost center, it's not sunk money. If you've got external investment in your business in particular, you need to show a return on how you're spending that cash. So why would you not want to do that in a more targeted way that's more likely to have a better ROI, better return on your spend?
Do you have a figure in mind, or rather, how do you set about deciding which accounts or companies you'd be best going for? Is there more to it than just the actual order value? What would your guidance be on that?
Well, if you're looking at ABM for all of your either customers or your prospect universe, you need to think about it in the sense of one-to-one, one-to-few, and one-to-many. Mm-hmm. So for the really valuable accounts, and value could be based on customer lifetime value, average order value, or it could be just strategic value, because you might see partnership opportunities beyond the immediate order value with that customer. So you would target a one-on-one, highly personalized approach for your most valuable accounts. But then if you have got accounts that are secondary to that but still important, you would collate them at either a needs basis or on a sector basis, and run a one-to-few style approach. And then equally, you go a little bit more of a helicopter view, not quite so personalised, but still more personalised than a standard kind of broad brush marketing campaign for the lower value accounts. So you've got to right size your activity and your strategy based on what those customers are going to give you. If you are a kind of low value per individual order, high volume SaaS business that drives those accounts to your website and you primarily convert online, then sure, you would be crazy to run a one-on-one, highly personalized program for them. If, on the other hand, you sell into enterprise customers and each deal is worth 50K or more to you, you'd almost be crazy not to invest that much time to try to either win those deals or enhance and deepen the relationship. Because the other thing about ABM to remember, it's not just about going after new customers and new prospects. It's also about how you can deepen the relationship with existing accounts, re-sign, cross-sell, upsell, and work hand in hand with your sales team.
Nice. Well, I feel that the next question really has to be, and this I imagine is going to be the damn opening one. But what is your approach and your strategy for setting about doing what the big guys can do, but with much more resources and budget? How do you approach that? Oh.
Brilliant, love it. Getting into the meat of it now.
Absolutely.
Everyone needs details, don't they? So they can take it away. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to focus in the one-to-one account-based marketing space, because in this amount of time, we just don't have space to talk about lots of different approaches. But yeah, we do have a tried and tested 6-phase approach. I always like really clear number of phases. It's great for planning purposes. The first thing is looking at, where are you going to target? Which sector do you want to target? And you have to think about not where you're coming from as a business, but what is happening for them. So classic pestle analysis, looking at the environment, regulatory, political, anything that's relevant that's happening at this moment in time that drives a specific need for that business to consider your services as a customer. So quite often, and this happens a lot we work with digital tech companies. So when you've got a really deeply technical product, it's challenging not to be very internal and product out to the world. This is what I've got to sell. I want to sell it to you. You've got to flip that completely on its head and deep dive into what customers would want. So find your target sectors and do that by understanding who is most likely, who has the biggest need and driver for your solution. What problem do you solve at this moment in time for them? So that's step one. Rolling on to step two, because it follows straight afterwards. And the great thing of that first part, all you need is a computer, access to the internet, desk-based research. Yes, that stuff at scale can be done using technology, but equally you can absolutely do it with old school desk research. So once you know where you're going to target, which sectors are relevant for you, then you've got to look at your specific and individual accounts. So in some cases, in some businesses, your head of sales, especially if you're enterprise sales business, will have a list of their must-win strategic accounts. Could be as easy as them sharing that information with you and a conversation to agree the priority level within them. But if it's not as straightforward as that, then you need to go out and do the research, right? So you need to go and look at which are the most relevant accounts. What is happening for them? What is specific? Again, it's like the sector research, but you're doing it at an individual company level. So you're going to start researching their end of year financial reports, what's going on for them in the news, press releases, what some of their media and spokespeople are saying, and generally what's happening in the news about them. So you start to build a picture of what's going on in their world, which gets deeper and deeper, by the way, as you go along this 6-phase process.
That's good with me. Yeah. I'm taking notes as we're going along. So analysis, first of all. Step 2, then account insight. Yes.
Yeah.
What's next?
Next gets even more detailed. So if you like detail, you're going to love getting into this. It's stakeholder mapping. So you know the sector, You know the accounts that you want to target. But in one-to-one ABM, you aren't targeting an account because it's not on a homogenous unit. B2B marketing, you've got a buying center to deal with, and you need, as the marketer driving the ABM approach, to discover who is it specifically that you're selling to. You're going to have some people who are influencing the buying decision, some people who are the users of your product, and then one or a number of people who are your end decision makers. So what you really need to do, and the process we go through, is mapping. We have like a standard 3x3 matrix, and that's where we plot individual stakeholders on two different axes. And those axes are, what's their proximity to the need and what is their decision-making capability? Because you don't want to target someone, you don't necessarily want to go after the most senior person. Because if you're looking at an enterprise business, that could be someone who's at board level, who's really difficult to access, but also is never going to use your product. So whilst they get briefings from their team to say how critical it is, they don't feel the pain. They haven't got that problem to solve. So they're probably too senior. They'll be in your top right-hand box. You want actually the next layer down from there, the real influential decision makers. So this is a process that you do on a per account basis. So if you're, and we come toward the end, towards your budget and how can you control it? This sounds like a lot of stuff. Well, the number of accounts is critical. So you can control your budget by controlling the number of accounts that you want to do this for and how deep you go. The deeper you go, the better content you'll get and potentially the better return on investment. But there'll be a cutoff point whereby you can't just keep going deeper and deeper because, in growing businesses and with resource in mind, you need to also be practical. So when you're doing this work, you do get a feel for when you've just got enough information, and that's going to give you, that's your tidbits of gold that you need to take forward. So by this third stage, you've not only built a picture of the sector and the accounts that you're going after, but individuals, named individuals within the accounts. So kind of like creating buyer personas, which has been around in marketing for, since marketing began, but it's like a mini buying persona per individual within the account.
Perfect. I'm going to ask you to recap one particular thing there in just a second, because one, it's awesome, and two, I think it's really deserving of understanding in detail. Before I do, I'd just like to a quick shout out to GCara21, who's watching on Twitch this afternoon. Thank you very much for that, GCara21, and regular friend of the show, Paul Simon Mackey. He's fully approving of what you're doing this afternoon, Helen. He's saying one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, which is going at the sector approach. We all start small with a one-to-one, but we must be more targeted. Thumbs up for that summary, do you reckon, Helen? Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yes. It's all about the targeting. So if you get the targeting wrong, it doesn't matter how good your message is, it's not gonna land. So it is really important. Nice. There you go. Paul's he's a regular friend of the show and always spot on with the comments. Thank you very much, Paul Simon. So what I just wanted to quickly recap there, you touched on something really cool, which is the 3x3 matrix, as you described it, for mapping out who you're going after, because I can well imagine that it's understandable that you would deliberately target the very top level players, but mapping out of this 3x3 matrix, you're actually able to make a more informed decision as to where to best apply your resources. That's how I was understanding it. So. Right. Could you run us, just as a recap of how this, I'm drawing it frantically in the air right here. I know you can't see it, but could you draw us in the air and talk us through the matrix and what the X and the Y axis represents once again? Yeah, sure. So on one axis, you've got proximity to need. So that tells you, how close are they to this issue? Whatever issue your product, your service, your solution solves, how close are they to that? Because you're trying to access the people who really, really care, not someone for whom this is a 4-year out strategic goal, not someone for whom it's not really a problem, because you'll never cut through. It doesn't matter how good your message, your comms, your creative is, you'll never get there. You have to find the person that cares. So you want someone who is if it's a mid-sized company, you might want the top person, the most senior person. If it's a really large enterprise business, you probably don't want that top person because they'll be too busy, too inaccessible. So you're looking for someone kind of just off that the top end of that axis. And the other one is their decision-making capability and capacity. Now, you might choose within your campaign, depending on how deep you want to go when you come to execute, you may either choose to just communicate to the decision maker, or you might also have different threads of communication for the decision maker, the influencer, and the end user. And again, it depends on what your product is, how important the deal is, how big it is, how much value as to how much time that you invest. But you can go to a lot of detail to create bespoke and personalized messaging for each of those three people that will all say different things. They'll all add up and dial up to the same message at a high level, but it's in the detail that you've got to get people. ABM isn't about broad brush communication. It's not brand comms. It's not high level marketing speak. That has its value, but not in the middle of an ABM direct personalized campaign. You've got to get into specifics, which I'll come on to in a minute when you create the message.
Nice. I love that right here, right now, you've very much qualified why, indeed, as per the title of today's show, ABM isn't just for the big guys. By being strategic about this, and your system for doing this is exactly why, yes, companies of all sizes can do that. So massive thank you for delivering on this, although we're not done yet by a long shot. Well, the next point is, so we've done analysis first of all, then the account insight, then the all-important stakeholder mapping, my favorite bit so far. What's after stakeholder mapping?
It's about your message, which is the absolute crux of it, because whether they sit up and listen and allow you to interrupt their day and their thought, whatever they were in the middle of with your message or not, is going to be based on the quality of the message. So how do you get to that? Well, you've already done a whole bunch of research, insight, and understanding of their sector, their drivers, and their business. And you also know who you are as a company, you know, what makes you special, unique, and different. So you're really creating a personalized value proposition for that business, for that individual within that business, remember, because you're targeting specific users within the account. But here's where I want to get really, really particular and specific about it, because like I said just a moment ago, it isn't a high level message. It isn't, we think we can solve your problem because X, Y, Z, it can give you, help you generate revenue or increase your efficiency. The level that you need to get to, if you really, really want to succeed, is to say to an individual within a particular business, by using our service, we can save your company that is this size, this much money. Put the revenue figure in there. Make personal calculations based on the size of that business. What is the time saved? What could they do with that time saved? Is it that they free up 30 extra full-time employees? If so, how else could they utilize those employees? How could they deliver on that efficiency gain? If, for example, one of the savings is you like reducing truck rolls or visits to a site because you've got engineers on the road, tell them how many truck rolls per year you can save them, and then calculate what is the carbon dioxide saved per year for that business, because almost every company has got a green agenda now. If it's not at the top of their list, it will be in their annual report, so you can connect to what they've said about their green agenda and make sure it's represented in your message. So that is how specific and particular it is. And they're not complicated calculations. These are just like simple spreadsheet stuff. But taking that level of effort is what opens the door to you. And I think what's really interesting, and again, this is like my view of why you don't need massive budgets for this stuff, is because the more detailed and particular you can be, the more simply you can execute your campaign. So we might have some incredible creative marcomms people or agencies on the session here today, and I am absolutely not devaluing creative in its right place, but in the kind of campaign that we deliver for our clients, who, bear in mind, are scaling customers, scaling businesses on a budget, we actually create really simple materials for them. Things like, and it's all digital. So a benefit of, really a benefit, I don't think there are any benefits you can say from COVID, but one of the more positive things coming out of it is that, but in the past, to disrupt someone's thinking, you might have assumed you needed to do a really expensive piece of direct mail, a physical gift that you're giving to someone, putting on an executive's desk at work, or taking over billboards next to where they work. But they're not there anymore, certainly not all the time, because everybody's working in this hybrid way. So make it completely digital. And we have run really successful campaigns that have got like 80% open rates on the email, 30% conversion to C-level meeting by using a single page infographic, really simple, co-branded. That's a really important point, because when somebody opens the material, they need something that makes them go, oh, that's interesting. And the most cost-effective way to do that is to not just have your brand, but have their brand. Wash it with their brand color, make it feel like it's a document from them, but be clear in what you're saying. Obviously, don't mislead them. Be clear in what you're saying and in your calculations, how you've come up with those, how you evidence them. But make it really visually attractive in that way. So infographics, and then something else which we've used to really, really great response. We call it a green paper, but it's effectively like a 3-page, maybe 4-page executive summary, executive report, I should say. So it's targeted at a C-level person. It goes into more detail on all those calculations that you've done and that you've delivered for them. It's a Word document that's got some, a wash of branding behind it, and it's nicely formatted. But that's all it is at the end of the day. And the reason it works so well is because it's not flashy. The emails are plain text, deliberately not flashy, deliberately very honest, very direct, very open, because you've put the effort in to be able to talk to the prospect or the customer in this way. So in a way, you've behind the scenes got a little bit more permission to step into their day digitally and virtually to say, here's some information, I think it's worth you reading. Because when they open it and they see the effort that you've gone to, lo and behold, it was worth reading. There's something that everybody should check out. If you haven't read it, it's called the Challenger Sale Methodology. That is about sales, but ABM is an integrated sales and marketing approach. It's not marketing in isolation. So I really recommend you read it, because it helps to, when you're thinking about that messaging and the content element of your ABM campaign, it really helps you figure out how to disrupt the thought process with something provocative. And that's the detail of the message that you can get to. So that's really important.
I can see how that's very much at the very much at the heart of standing out and cutting through the noise, which is invariably a huge challenge in this day and age, getting worse, not worse, more difficult by the day. What was the name of that book one more time, by the way?
The Challenger Sale Methodology.
The Challenger Sale Methodology.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of constantly bouncing between sales and marketing and the pressing mission to align the two, because when that happens, magic happens. In short, I think we're just about at the halfway point of going through your quite excellent methodology for doing this, but hopefully for everyone watching right now, I'm hoping that this is coming across beautifully clearly. If there's anything that you're unsure of, or you'd like us to dig further down into, then please do put it on the comment section right now, and I will put it to Helen. And since it's a bit of a live question and answer thing, we'll refer to you as Dr. Helen in this instance. All right.
I've been promoted. I like that.
Absolutely. So, account insights, stakeholder mapping, and the value prop there, which that was really, really quite smart. And what's the next step then that is necessary to bring this to life and to ultimately land the account?
Yeah. So we kind of merge messaging and content together there, just because they are intrinsically linked. So we talked about those. The next stage is activation. It's what is the campaign and what do you actually do? Now, the answer to that is difficult to give. What you can't give one answer, obviously, for every different scenario. So I'll give you one example of how we executed a really successful campaign, which it's digital. And the best thing is that all you need to be able to do all of this stuff so far is, as I said, a computer, access to the internet. So tick, tick, everybody's got that. Of course, you need a person to be able to do that work, a portion of a person's time, or lean on an agency to help support you in doing it because they understand how to do it. You'll also then need some form of marketing tool like CRM, HubSpot. But for example, we've run this with the 42 quid a month basic HubSpot. So if you don't have automation, if you don't have fancy bells and whistles, it just doesn't matter, because think about, again, where you're starting. If you're going to begin, you're not going to invest loads of money in anything before it's proven. So start small, take your most strategic accounts, whether that's 5, whether you want to go for 10 or 3 even, and base it on that. So at that level, at that volume, you can do this without any automation at all, and hence being able to use 42 quid a month HubSpot account. You need to have created your digital content. You can do that on Canva. Canva, I know designers hate it, but Canva allows you to go a long way in creating really simple communication. You may well need to get an agency or a specialist designer on board if you want to do the co-branding and you don't have that capability in-house. But just remember, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be the lightweight stuff. So how then do you run a campaign? So the campaign the example I'm going to go through, we started with, you've already got your sectors, your list of companies, the people that you want to go after. You created your content. You've created your landing page in HubSpot. So you've created emails. So let me start from the beginning. The first thing that we did in the campaign is hijack the CEO of this of our clients' LinkedIn account, obviously with his permission, fully above board. But so we, using his LinkedIn account, reached out to the decision makers of his target clients. So you craft a message that absolutely is not a sales message. It's a really simple hello. It's an introduction from CEO to other senior stakeholder. So that's step one. Once someone's accepted that LinkedIn request, you send them a follow-up. Thanks for accepting. This is the kind of thing that many of you will be doing every day with people you're trying to connect to. But you follow up. Now use your most detailed piece of information as your teaser. So we've done some bespoke research into how our product could help your company, and we think we could save you X or time or people or whatever the biggest hook is. Might I send you a little bit more information on that? So when somebody says yes, please do, then you've got permission to get their email address, and then you can take them through your email flow. So we wrote, as I said, plain text, really simple emails, simply with an embedded link in. 3 phases. The first phase shares the most visual content, which was an infographic, a single page that says, here's how we can, solve your problem, save your business time and money. Within that, you've got to recognize their pain points. The very first thing in that content is recognizing their story. What's the pain point that you're connecting to? But so you show them the infographic. Now, as part of this campaign, we had, because you can track it all, of course, on HubSpot or whichever other technology you're using. The person that we sent it to opened it. They then forwarded it on 7 times. And within 12 hours, we had a C-level meeting booked for our CEO, our client CEO, with them. Because the reason that you get such a speedy response in a campaign of this nature is because you've going back to your very first research. You're not just targeting any old sector, you're targeting sectors and businesses who need your service at that moment in time. If you can solve a problem, if you can genuinely help, people are open to learning. Well, how can you help? Yeah, I'll give you half an hour to listen to you. So actually within this campaign, we didn't even get to the third phase of email. So for some, we captured on the first phase of email. For others, the second email went through, which took them to a landing page that had a personalized video on it. So it's a co-branded landing page with a personalized video. Actually, that video, again, super simple, just imagery of their software solution stitched together with music, with a personalized voiceover. So really low budget video creation, but personalized, and with case studies on the page. And that was it. That was the flow. And the third step, if you don't deliver the third email because people have already responded, is for that CEO or for the salesperson in the organization to follow up with an outbound. So it's not a cold call. It's I noticed that we sent you this information. I can see that you look like you've read it. Tell me what you think. Let's open a conversation. And that's that. That is, you can run a campaign as simply as that with no more than 3 personalized bits of content and using a 42 quid a month HubSpot license.
Budget for that.
Budget for that. Don't make it all secret.
I really like how it's all really centering around hyper personalizing the entire campaign. And because of that, that's totally why it's getting so much of a good response from the person that you're targeting it to. Because if it's about them exclusively, which it is, rather than their niche, that's understandably going to be getting more on their radar. Really a fan of this.
And so what I've just described there is, as you say, it's hyper personalized one-to-one. And you might be thinking, that's too much. That's too much. The deal's not big enough. The value's not there. I couldn't do that. Just do it at a sector level then. So go back to doing your sector insight. And instead of going down to the level of looking for individual people within individual accounts, you look at the job description, the job title that you want to go after that makes for your decision maker, and look at the commonalities of what are their pain points. They will be at a slightly higher level and not so individual, but that is still a highly personalized outreach campaign that will have a much greater ROI than targeting 10,000 people on LinkedIn advertising, for example, which has its place. If you're a volumatic SaaS business, then you do that stuff and it gives you the return that you need. But this absolutely has its place.
I can see that. What would you say are the points to avoid, as in common mistakes that would likely come into the mix unless they took on board your wise words, which you're about to deliver?
I think I talked a little bit about it before, but if you don't have clarity on your process and kind of a tick list for each phase, you could get bogged down in the research and you could start thinking, but what does this research tell me and what do I do with it? So I would say go deep, but stop. Don't just keep burning cash and resource and time on endless research. These are the kind of things that you can research per sector, couple of days, per accounts, do 5 in a day or 2 days. It depends on the value of your account, how deep you go, right? So only you will know what makes sense for your business and the structure of the deals that you're either trying to win or the accounts that you already have as a business. And sales have asked you to come to the table to support. Maybe you're doing more bid-based account marketing where you're going after a specific date in time where you're responding to an RFP or something like that. So number one is don't go too deep. The second thing I would say is don't go for the glitzy, most senior person in your 3x3 matrix, the person who is not close enough to the need, because they might read what you've got, but they might not quite connect with it. So try to go for the person who is the decision maker, but the one whose team have got the problem that you're solving.
Really not, yes. It felt like there was a third point in there, just waiting to jump out. Go on. What's that? What is it?
In your value proposition, if you can't be specific in the benefit you deliver, then really think about whether or not you should be executing. You might do some of this work and you might go 3 phases in and go, do you know what? I think we've got the wrong, this is the fit's not there. We've got the wrong sector here. And that's okay, because that's also part of validating what you're doing. It's a bit like, if you're a scaling business and you're just not making repeated sales, what could the problem be? Well, it could be your demand generation, but it could be your product market fit. So you have to go back to the beginning again and check and sense check and make sure that that's right. So if when you come to write your content and you write your message, you find your team writing quite generic statements, that is not going to get you cut through in your campaign. So before you spend money and time executing, take a few steps back, because the more specific it is, the better it will be.
Really nice. I think the point in particular of setting yourself a budget, essentially, of time and resource to apply to one account is extremely considered and good advice, because otherwise, I can well imagine that you could easily spend a few days if you got really carried away with it, which is why a little bit of restraint and budgeting. I think that's most likely the best word for it. Okay, well, as an overview, what would you say that success looks like when you've got all of the boxes covered and you're doing this properly?
So you should be converting people in your target account list into conversations for sales. So if you're running a kind of an activation phase of the type that I outlined and suggested, that should result in meetings being booked with your salespeople in the organization. If it isn't, then something's gone wrong. Like I say, it's either it's the message, it's the target, it's not happening. But just don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's why it is important to start small, because if you haven't done any of this before, then there is a reason to have a set process, because it guides you through it, and it's the experience to know when to stop and pull back. So you should absolutely be converting to a conversation. But the other thing it will do is, and if you're a marketing leader listening to this and thinking about implementing it within your company, is bring you much closer as an organization internally. So to execute this effectively, you'll be working hand in hand with sales. This is not marketing over there getting blamed for not delivering the leads. This is you guys working together and hand in hand. And if you're doing this kind of work for an in-life account, especially where it's already on one of your sales team's named account list, must-win RFPs for the year, what you're doing in marketing suddenly becomes even more strategically important to that business, to the CEO of that business. So to give you a valid voice at that top table, this is a great opportunity, because you are operating at a strategic layer. The challenge, of course, for marketing leaders delivering this as a new program is that you need to keep your eye on everything else that you do as well. All your business as usual stuff, your social media, and all the other nurture and things that you will have going on. And I think that is why, either to support for the strategy phase and the setup and the framework, or potentially into execution, it is sometimes helpful to have someone to guide you. And there's obviously, we do it. There are lots of people who can do different types of this for you. So don't be afraid. The reason I wanted to come on this session today really is to say, just don't be put off by budget, because yes, you can do it, and it can take you 6-figure budget if you've got hundreds of thousands of people that you target and you need automation. But you can just pilot 3 accounts, just get started. Whoever you work with will be able to tell you on a per account basis what that will likely cost you, to which you can either say, yep, we're in, let's do it, or you can step back and say, actually, it's just 2 accounts, or, wait 6 months. I think that's the great thing, is that these are not costs which kind of, get out of control. You know before you start what you're going to spend. So you'll know whether you're able to invest that money for the return you think you're going to get.
Hey, at the risk of, I guess, almost repeating there, if I may, what would you say would you like as the audience to have as the takeaway for why ABM isn't just for the big guys?
I think it's about recognizing there are simple, and I know, I get, we do, technology marketing, that the world these days is all about automation and hyper personalization at scale. But not everybody is in a position to start there. And it's kind of saying that's okay. Just, use a person with some really simple web tools. That there are technologies out there that are not expensive, that can help you create your stakeholder maps really quickly and easily. They'll auto update every 6 months. That can give you that insight, but they're not a big investment for you. So just don't let it put you off. Start small. And the great thing is that, as anybody in marketing knows, if you run a program and you can prove, invest this much and I'll give you this return, lo and behold, that's your business case to gain more investment. So that if you do want to go to greater scale and shift from doing one-on-one campaigns to one to few and even bigger, where potentially you might need content management system, you might need more automation, but you've set in stone the business case to be able to go and ask for more cash to do that. So you've won something in the short term, which is that if you've done it right, you've got some accounts and they're converted to really strong opportunities for sales and hopefully into RFI, RFP, and a closed won deal. And you've given yourself a business case to then expand. So it's kind of a no lose situation. And look, at the end of the day, if you try it and it fails and you unpick it and you realize that you didn't target the right sector, or your product just doesn't give you enough of those nuggets with which to cut through to somebody, that also tells you something. It might be telling your product development team something, an insight that they may not want to hear, but it's going to be pretty critical to the success of the company. So on any of those bases, it's great at the end of the day.
Perfectly summarized. Thank you very much. In fact, Paul Simons just jumped back in there as you were rounding that up there. He's affirms being more specific with your communications. Your activation phase Your activation phase needs to lead to a conversion. Monitor your comms. Bang on the money. Thank you. Helen, this has been really, really good. Quite early on, we established that you'd absolutely delivered on the promise of today's show, which is to make the accounts make the case rather for why ABM's not just for the big guys. Hey, thank you ever so much for joining me on the show today. This has been ever so much a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much. And if you've enjoyed watching, then please do subscribe to the show. Here we go. Web address on screen, www.the414.net for all previous episodes, and subscribe to the show's weekly email where you'll get a notification of what was on the show this week and then what's on the way for the forthcoming show. If you're on LinkedIn, by the way, please do subscribe and like, that was it, to the 414 company page. I've made a mental note to give that shout out each week. So company page for the 414 on LinkedIn. There we go. So this has been the 414 for you as a professional B2B marketer to directly expand and enhance your professional knowledge with every single episode, whereas I get to speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing every single week. This week with the wonderful Helen Brown up there in Newbury. Thank you ever so much for joining me today, and I really hope you've enjoyed watching. I'll see you here same time next week.